Hello, my name is Mark Wilson. Welcome to the Support Raising Podcast. Today I have with me Steve D. and Callie Davis, who are going to join me talking about our next podcast series, which is called Trailblazers. And we as a team collectively value seeing how leaders set the tone. And our experience shows that leaders who go first set a pathway for everyone else to follow. And this is a pretty biblical idea. Jesus talked about, and Peter says, in his steps, right? He set an example, a perfect way for us to move forward, to show us that it was possible. And we see in the support raising world that people who do this, they earn the favor, they demonstrate God's faithfulness, and people trust them. And so today we'd like to talk a little bit about the podcast series and a couple things that we're excited about. Callie, Steve, is there something particular that you're excited about in this podcast that you'd love to share with our listeners in this teaser?
Oh, Steve, I thought you were going to jump in. I was giving you space. I think, Mark, I am just so excited to hear basically the best nuggets that leaders have collected that inspired, that helped them step forward into the space that they are championing when it comes to support raising. I think we all have a chance for a lifetime to gather a few of those nuggets that really impress us deeply and really shape our perspective for whatever we're going about. And so for a chance to get some great leaders together and hear their nuggets, hear that those little kernels of truth, encouragement, and just what inspired their leadership when it comes to the world of support raising, I think this is going to be a gold mine. So I am so excited to hear what people have to say, what they have to share. It's going to be exciting, especially because we're having guests from around the world. So every variety of context, we're trying to bring in voices to really share where God is inspiring on the global front, which should be amazing.
Thanks, Callie.
Yeah, Mark, well, I get the privilege of interviewing Callie, a lot of those global voices that you just mentioned, and I'm super excited about that because they've got some great things to say. So, Callie, some of those kernels, those nuggets of truth that you were just talking about, they're going to come from all over the world, even from the U.S., but I'm so excited about what some of these international guests will be having to share with us. And one thing that really excites me about that is that, first of all, God is doing so many amazing things in what I would refer to as the majority world, the non-Western world, places in Africa and Asia and Latin America. And when it comes to the support raising aspect of that, so often our global support raisers, those who are leaders in that space, unfortunately, they really are swimming upstream. They're having to trust the Lord to really change the culture of an entire generation or country or within a national church, and they're facing opposition from all over, whether it's their own church or other ministry leaders who are not very understanding of the biblical basis of support raising. And so they really are the giants that are going first. And I'm excited because they're going to be leading, scores of other support raisers and missionaries who will be standing on their shoulders, but they are the ones who have gone first. And so they've got a unique perspective that I can't wait for them to unpack.
Yep. It's great, Steve. Thanks for saying that. And I was thinking as you were talking, how often they've been told it's impossible, that doesn't work for them, that there has to be another way. In fact, we've even heard one of our own friends say there must be an African way to do this, right? And surely there is an African way, but it shares some similarities in biblical principles. One of the things, as you were talking about, I'm pretty excited that we're going to get to hear from Kate from Steiger, and they've got about a 30-year-old organization that's got some history and some tendencies, and the leaders in that agency have decided that they had to go first and they had to make the change. And so I'm really excited that people get to hear a story, and they're global. They're in like 20 or 30 countries. And so there's plenty of challenges and historical pushback. But I think, again, like you said, it's an international example of how they are stepping forward and walking in faith. Does anything else come to mind for you guys as far as thinking about something that either impacted you and caused you to go forward, or a particular item of interest that you hear in our guests.
Well, Mark, I can forecast a little bit more. One of the other guests that I'll get to interview. This is a brother from Sub-Saharan Africa who was, when he came to us several years ago, he was already on the mission field. He and his family were living in East Africa, ministering among a predominantly unreached people group. And but he was severely underfunded to the point of he was about to throw in the towel. I mean, he was about to go back and get a leave ministry, get a non-ministry job just to be able to put food on the table. And he reached out to us by email. I still remember I was the recipient of that email. And unlike so many other emails that we might receive from from various people, asking for handouts or asking for the West to come in and kind of just give them support. This brother wasn't asking for that. He was asking for training. He was asking for just a little bit of help. And so we invited him to a boot camp that we were doing in the region. And he quickly, after he attended and got trained, he quickly got fully funded. And not only that, but he also became one of our support raising boot camp facilitators and is now leading other Africans. And really, he's the one who's saying, "Follow me." And we're seeing Africans who, they like hearing from our Western facilitators, but they really like hearing from this guy. And so I can't wait for all of you guys to meet him.
Wow. Mark, I'm curious. So much of this show is coming from your brainchild of the importance of leaders stepping out first. What made this topic feel so important to you that you wanted us to bring a whole show together for it?
I mean, I think it's a personal conviction from experience. And I remember going to boot camp for the first time and hearing Micah and Aaron discuss at boot camp how the leaders in their agencies were fully funded. And I remember thinking, wow, that's actually possible. And then thinking back a little bit on my own circumstance where we had been told no one at headquarters would ever be able to raise funds. It wasn't possible. And it just, like, I had thought there was another reality, but I had no idea what it was because all I knew was my context. And I remember just that hope. And that's kind of what I'm hoping here for the listeners is that if you're in that spot where you are thinking like, I just don't know what's next. I don't know how we're going to do this. Nobody else around me can see something different, but something's got to be different. I hope that they hear these stories, whether it's Dave Dickens from Crew coming on and talking about how the culture there works and how their leaders lead the way, or some of these international brothers. But there's a story here for you that will help you move and see a new possibility. It could give you the courage. And that's in my heart, what I'd like people to see. And I think it's also a call. It's a clarion for leaders to remember we have to exemplify what we promise. And it's one of our core values is that you shouldn't be facilitating and teaching people something you're not doing yourself, and you have to demonstrate it. And so there's a call in the Bible to do that, and it helps us validate what we believe is true biblically.
Yeah, as I think back to this concept of leaders going first, I think back, I have to go back many, many years to when I first made the decision, following God's call into full-time ministry. Here I was on a college campus. I was majoring in engineering, and I was expecting to go be an electrical engineer. And God got a hold of me. I was already a believer, but I began to say, hey, I've really been discipled so well by some that have come before me. I really kind of wanted to pay it forward and do this ministry thing for a couple years. Well, it's been a few more than a couple years, and I've forgotten most of the engineering. But really, the reason that I made that choice, apart from God's call, was there was the man who led our campus ministry. Actually, Mark, you were talking about Dave from Crew. This was a Crew campus ministry many years ago. And he was our campus director. And in many ways, I kind of saw myself like him. I mean, he was an engineer by trade, but he went into ministry. And here he was fishing for men. And he was also raising support for his family. And I thought, well, if Rick could do it, why can't I be like that? He's already demonstrated faithfulness, not just in seeing ministry fruit on the campus, but he's seeing God provide for his family. And he's married, they've got 3 kids. They're taking vacations. He's saving for retirement. They're putting food on the table. I mean, they're fully funded. So, and he's not relying on his engineering degree to do that. He's raising support. I could do that too. Now, of course, I thought it would be for 2 years, and it's been a few more than that. But yeah, I'm just so thankful that I was able to follow him. I'm not sure without his influence in my life if I'd be here today.
I think I heard somebody say the other day that hope is based on a track record of performance, like it's a historical record. And where there's no historical record, a leader has to stand on the promise of God from Scripture that he provides, and that God is, it encourages them to step out. But until somebody can see this leader blaze that path and that it's a demonstrated track record in a new way, in a new culture, that's really hard to happen. And so at some level, we're hoping to give hope to people because these people have stepped out. They have demonstrated a historical record that God is faithful. He can be depended on for the ministry, the provision that you need, and raising up partners. And it's not a contextual thing; it is a global thing. And so that's really what I'm hoping here. We're hoping for here is that way forward. And for those of you listening, we've all had our moment of wondering what's the next thing and how God's going to come through. And just to say, God has not failed us yet. He leans in, he moves us. And so we want to inspire you. We want you to see people. We would love for you. I'm sure these folks would even love to share more about their stories personally, but we're really looking forward to what this could be. And it inspires the globe because we still have a long way to go. We've been working. There's lots of countries we're engaged in, but there's so much more work to be done. And so it's not over yet, and the Lord's not done yet.
Amen to that.
Steve, I'd love for you to take a minute and describe who we think or you think this podcast is for. Like what kind of leader, what kind of person would benefit from listening?
Yeah, Mark, that's a great question. I think there's a number of different types of people that would benefit from this series that we're looking to do. In fact, I think most people would benefit from it, depending on no matter what stage of leadership you're in. Certainly agency leaders who want to affect change within their own organization are going to get a lot of value out of this. I think also those who may be more like Lone Ranger workers, especially globally, who are dissatisfied with the current state of affairs when it comes to funding and missionary support in their context, are going to get a lot of inspiration, especially out of our majority world guests. But I think also just individual support raisers who may be in an environment where they're not getting a lot of support from their agency. Maybe they're kind of having to swim upstream a little bit, and they're believing those naysaying voices that it can't be done, kind of like what you were saying earlier. I think they too would be able to get a lot of inspiration out of this upcoming series.
Great. Thanks, Steve, for firming that up a little bit. Callie, what do you think listeners might get out of this podcast? What kind of takeaways would they get?
Yeah. Well, partly I'm curious because I don't know what all the takeaways are, but I can tell you what I hope the takeaways do. And that is, I hope it is equipping leaders so that 5 years from now, they're not hearing some of this for the first time saying, oh, I'd wished I'd known. I think of a great piece that's a little less support raising, but it was one of the great pieces of advice that I heard a little too late. And it was, you should start looking for your successor immediately. Not the idea that you have one foot out the door, but the idea that your first job as a leader is to multiply yourself, is to be looking and fostering and discipling and growing the people around you so that there's never a void. And I heard that several years into leading, and it felt like it was too little too late almost at that point. So what I'm hoping is that we hear these nuggets of wisdom, these stories, these people that have made great strides in what it means to lead in partnership development around the world, and hearing what has really led the way for them to be able to hear that and say, oh, that's something I can do, or that's something I am doing, or heavens to Betsy, I never even considered that. Thank goodness someone said something. And so that is what I see as just, I think I've already said it, pure gold. The value of hearing someone else's learning moment, someone else's epiphany, aha, someone else's, this is what made the difference for me, means it can make the difference for you. And that is so valuable that you don't have to wait years to happen across the one right person who might pass on that piece of wisdom. But here we are bringing numerous people with all of their wisdom, all of their input, and you get to listen to it right here.
Yep. Thank you, Callie. I was thinking, when I was growing up in church, we called that a witness or a testimony,
Yes.
and it was to inspire as someone had gone before us. And I think that's a really significant thing. We are giving witness and testimony to God's faithfulness to these people. And it does provide a way forward. And sometimes we can see on our own. And I thought of one other thing as you were talking. It provides a little bit of connection, meaning that maybe you're feeling like you're the only one struggling with this, or you're all alone in your organization, and you have a collective virtual community that has walked this road before you. And it gives you a little inspiration to not quite be so alone. So I think that's pretty significant in these stories, a takeaway as well.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah,
I think too often we can feel more alone than we are, especially if we're that single voice in our organization. There might be no one physically near us, but I mean, especially in this digital age, there is so much community at our fingertips, but sometimes we don't know where to start. We don't know where to look, to listen. So I agree, Mark. This is a chance to hear that you are not standing alone. You're not facing these problems alone. But there are people with you, ahead of you, encouraging you, and can lend a helping word, maybe even a helping hand, and know that you are with us.
Yep. And it's my favorite thing about the support raising community is how willing they are to share what they know. It doesn't feel like people have drawn lines like denominations and said, nope, we don't help you because you're doing that. I really feel like everyone I've encountered is so willing to share what they've learned and help people get, because they know what's at stake, which is the gospel. And so to wrap all of that up, that's what support raising isn't the goal. The gospel getting to those people who have never heard about Jesus is the goal. And that drives the urgency for all of this. And the reason we share is because it's a kingdom thing. Well, thank you guys for your time. And we're excited to share this with you as it comes forward and to see what God does with it. And often in podcasts, you never really hear, but we trust that God will bless our efforts and the preparation for this. So thank you for joining us and being such faithful listeners.